Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, an ASU history professor says it's time to rethink the way American Indian history is considered. We'll look at the many court rulings regarding a proposed tribal casino near Glendale, and we'll hear from the editor of a book that chronicles the oral history of the Yavapai Nation. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. History can be viewed in different ways by different people, and that certainly is the case with American Indian history. In a new book, Call for Change, The Medicine Way of American Indian History, Ethos, and Reality, ASU professor Donald Fixico argues that the current discipline of Native American history is insensitive to and inconsistent with how American Indians view their past experiences. We recently talked to Professor Fixico about his new book. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
Time to rethink American Indian history. What are we talking about here?
There have been actually over 30,000 books written about American Indians. And the operative word is about because it's written really kind of from the outside about Indian people. So here's a chance to kind of get inside of the communities of Native people, inside of their minds, and to explain how that they're culturally different, they make their decisions different, their values are different, and therefore they come up with different worldviews. But that's also saying that there's a Comanche logic, there's a Navajo logic, Seneca logic, they're all different. But let's look at history that way.
So you say the current discipline is insensitive to Indian views of history. Talk to us about that.
Well, with the books written about Native people, it's really kind of taking this westernization approach towards history itself, the professional discipline, and saying, well, here are the facts, and here's what happened, and then that's what happened. And that really kind of disregards how that Native people think and their point of view and how that they see history.
Do you think that some of these historians just basically misunderstand American Indians?
Oh, very much so, because I can read a history book about American Indians, and like in the first few pages you can determine that. But you can also at the same time read the same few pages of a different book, and you can tell that scholar spent a lot of time with that Native group.
Give us an example maybe of misunderstanding that you've seen out there.
Oh, misunderstanding? Much of the history that is written probably before the late 1960s, because anthropologists, historians have written books about Native people, but the really kind of eye-opener was D. Brown's book, In Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, because in that book about the American West, he says, in reading the introduction, he says to the reader, read the introduction facing east. And when you face east, you could see the miners coming towards you, the railroads, the soldiers, the settlers, everything like that.
So basically, it's Indian views and values mixed with what actually happened.
Yes.
When you teach your class, when you wrote the book, who are you writing this for? Who are you teaching to?
I'm writing it for everyone because we need to kind of learn to think different ways. And we need to, if we take on the most difficult questions and problems, well, how do you approach things differently? Because if we don't, then we will limit our thinking and not be able to tackle those difficult questions.
In the book you write about, I want to get to the medicine way in a second, but first natural democracy. How do you define natural democracy in the context of this book and in the context of what you're talking about?
Natural democracy is a term I used in about 1982 when I was talking about the Iroquois and how that they dealt with democracy and decision-making. And I remember giving that lecture way back then, but natural democracy, the way I apply it, is mutual respect for everything and not just human beings, but respect for rivers, mountains, flora, fauna, that they are in all of this because all of our relations, to look at history and to look at society in general and to only look at it in terms of human relations is only looking at a piece of the pie. And so we need to look at the entire society of life.
So looking at saying that everything should be mutually respected, you then move on to the medicine way of looking at history. Talk to us about that.
Okay. The medicine way is something that I grew up with. The Native people who are close to their traditions, and I think even indigenous people in different parts of the world would agree, that if you're close to your ways of life, then what you see is almost that everything has a potential energy. Everything, water, a rock, a windstorm, all of that has potential energy, but we refer to that as kind of the medicine way or the medicine power. Medicine power equals energy and how that's released. If you don't respect the water, then the water will come in terms of a flood or a raging river or something like that. So in the medicine way, it's a way of paying the respect for everything that has potential power. And that's what we do, we respect that.
So how would you then work the natural democracy in the medicine way?
Well, if everything has power, then we respect everything that is within the totality. And the totality has to be respected, or else we'll cause our own doom, like global warming. If we had respected, perhaps, the northern parts of this planet in a much better way and handled our natural resources in a much better way, we would not be in this forthcoming kind of doom that's going to happen with global warming.
So we've got mutual respect for everything. We have the medicine way in the way you approach everything. How does that work its way into the history of American Indians?
Well, the medicine way has always been there because it's the medicine way that Comanche people grow up with, Seneca people, Seminoles in Florida, myself growing up in Oklahoma. And so it's really kind of introducing this to the larger mainstream and to the rest of the world. But I found that in doing that, I had to construct theoretically a cultural bridge. So the cultural bridge enables someone, if they can understand what the medicine way is, they can cross this bridge and to get inside of the tribal communities and the way of native thinking, then cross that bridge back.
So when you talk again about the ethos and the reality of Native Americans, again, I want to get it back to the context of history. How does that change the way I would look, or someone else who would look at the history of any aspect of American Indian history? How would that change or make me see this differently, or literally change the reality of that history?
Well, it would change a lot, because if we can look back into the history, it's almost like looking at a different book altogether, looking at a different way of life. A good example is maybe World War II or maybe World War I. But if you go back to World War I and or II and look at how that the German people thought at that time about that, rather than a Western approach of American historians writing about that, then you don't get the German perspective. In this situation, you get the American Indian perspective and how that each of the individual nations dealt with history. And it's like, how did that happen? Why it happened? How come did I miss that? And so this new perspective, that's what I'm trying to suggest in this book.
But you talk about Iroquois logic and other tribal logic and how they can be different. How do you incorporate that into a general understanding of American Indian history? Because I would imagine between tribes there are great differences.
Oh, indeed. There's 566 federally recognized tribes today. Now, there has to be at least 566 different points of view. And if you add in the gender factor, men and women, then that's twice that amount. So this is really to kind of get on the other side of the equation of Indian-white relations. And once you're on the side of the equation, facing east, looking at the frontier, then it opens up. And as it opens up, then you see these different relationships. Take one group, like the Creeks or any tribe, and it's in a circle. But it has relationships with the white world, the Creeks with the Cherokees, but also the Creeks with the animal, the plant, the metaphysical. And it becomes more than just kind of a two-dimensional approach, but it becomes more spherical.
You write about the binary system of colonizer and colonized. How do you find common ground? I mean, are those the circles involved there as well?
Yes, but see, colonization is really only looking at the a native group, or all native groups, with the American mainstream. And so that's the binary. But if you take that same theoretical model of two relationships and you turn that around, then you see the Creeks with the Kiowa, the Creeks with the Seminoles, the Creeks. And any tribe can be in that middle, but we can't forget the Creeks' relationship with the plant world and the animal world and the metaphysical world, and maybe with the French and the Spanish.
So that relationship, if most folks look at history, they want to know what happened, and they want to know why it happened. Some want to make sure it doesn't happen again, but for the most part, it's a curiosity as to what happened before they may have been around. How does this particular discipline, this particular approach, alter what happened, why it happened?
Well, I hope, and this is my goal for the book, is to really make people think really hard about history, and in particular American Indian history and maybe indigenous history all around in different parts of the world. Because the indigenous point of view, say in New Zealand or in Australia or in the Siberia of Russia, there's a different story, a different interpretation. History is a matter of interpretations. But with the Western approach, we tend to negate or we nullify or we even forget those other kinds of history. By not writing about how those people think, then we use a large paintbrush and we kind of paint a way of history, and that's how it happens.
So you'll be teaching a new class on this fall, correct, here at ASU?
Well, yes, kind of using the basic structure of it, but this new class, American Indian Studies 191, is really a substitute for Arizona State University's 101. Now, we'll be using 3 different biographies, but these individuals, Peterson Zaw, Navajo Tribal Chairperson and President, Lori Alvord, the first Navajo female surgeon, graduate of Stanford Medical School, and also Charles Alexander Eastman. Dr. Eastman became a physician in 1890. So, how do these individuals, thinking in the medicine way, how did they survive going to medical school when they came from a different set of ideas and backgrounds and values?
Well, it's interesting stuff. I mean, it's an interesting read, and it's certainly a different way of looking at things. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
The Tohono O'odham Indian tribe's plans to build a casino on land near Glendale have survived several court challenges. For the latest, we spoke with Heidi McNeil Staudenmeier of the law firm Snell and Wilmer. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
What exactly did the judge rule?
Well, the decision back in May pretty much decided most of the claims that were out there, but he left 2 claims alone, which he felt like needed additional briefing on. And those specific questions were, does the restatement of contracts, which is a statutory legal thing, apply when a party's understanding of the contract is not reasonable? And then secondly, which representatives of the state should we look to decide what the state understood when the compact was entered into? Should they look to the intent of the governor, the voters, or somebody else? So those 2 issues were sent back to the parties to brief, and that's what he then looked at and reviewed in this most recent decision.
Let's start with the idea of what was understood by this gaming contract. What does the gaming compact say regarding new casinos?
Well, that's what the judge, that's basically the crux of the whole issue of the lawsuit, is what does this compact, which is 67 pages long, 26 sections, a very in-depth legal document, and that was part of what the judge was commenting on, was this compact was negotiated for a long time by some very smart people, and I don't see anywhere in this document that says that there will be no more new casinos in the Phoenix area. And that's kind of what it boils down to, is where in the compact does it specifically say there would be no more casinos in the Phoenix area for the Tohono O'odham tribe? And the state and the other plaintiffs argued that, well, there's other evidence out there. There's understandings that the state had, there's understandings that the Tohono O'odham tribe had, that they knew that when they were entering into this compact that they were implicitly agreeing that there would not be any new casinos in the Phoenix area. And they were a tribe in Tucson.
So is the judge basically saying implicit is one thing, but I don't see it here in the compact?
Well, in this most recent ruling, he looked at those 2 discrete issues, and the most important thing that he determined right from the start was, he said, okay, I understand there may be evidence out there about what the tribe understood, what the state may have understood, but he looked at the 4 corners of the contract. He also looked at Arizona law, which has a very liberal interpretation of how you interpret letting in other evidence that's not in the 4 corners of the contract. And even notwithstanding that liberal interpretation, he said this is an integrated contract. What that means is that all of the important terms are contained in the 4 corners of this contract. Therefore, it really doesn't matter what other understandings may have been separate and apart from this contract.
With the idea being that because the contract is so firm and it's all right there, if you didn't understand, where were you?
Why didn't you put it in there?
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, there was a lot of discussion in the briefing about, well, you know, the Tohono O'odham truly knew that they wanted to have this casino, but yet they didn't bring that up during the discussions. And so, you know, the judge really did a very thorough examination. He looked at all this extrinsic evidence, and at the end of the day, he said, you know what, this contract stands on its own, and it's not a reasonable interpretation to say otherwise.
It cannot reasonably be read to include such a ban, period. Now, the second part is who was supposed to do the understanding?
Well, that's kind of a secondary issue, even though that was one of the issues briefed, because in the judge's final analysis, it really didn't matter whose understanding was, because he said that a separate oral agreement that's separate and apart from this integrated agreement really is not reasonable to include in my analysis.
So if the governor thought this, the voters may have thought that, a couple of lawmakers thought this, Attorney General said, everyone's thinking all over the place, but the contract says X, Y, and Z. Doesn't matter what these other people are thinking.
That's pretty much how the judge came down with his ruling.
So what happens from here on this?
Well, I haven't heard specifically, but I would assume that the plaintiffs, the state and the other tribes, are contemplating appeal. If they do appeal, the next step for appealing would be to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco. So they file their notice of appeal and go through that process, and it's possible if they go through that process, and depending on how that comes out, it could ultimately be appealed all the way to the United States Supreme Court.
And again, the basis of their appeal would be similar to their argument in this particular case, and that is we understood X, but we didn't get it in the compact?
Well, it would be their entire, this case now is done. They had a lot of claims in the case. The judge entered summary judgment on every single claim now. So for going to the Ninth Circuit, I would assume they're going to look back at the claims and determine which are the most powerful claims and put their best case forward. But obviously they have to get through this judge's analysis, which is pretty solid.
Now, as far as I know that Glendale's had this effort to annex land. That is in court as well. Where does that stand?
Well, that lawsuit was sent back to the Secretary of the Interior, who had made a decision, it was either earlier this year or last year, about taking the land into trust, saying that it did qualify under the federal statute that's applicable here, but they want the Secretary, the judge in that case, wants the Secretary to take another look at it and determine whether or not, because this land is surrounded by the city of Glendale on 3 sides, whether that somehow takes it out of the category for qualifying. You know, so the Secretary is going to have to re-examine that issue and make another decision in terms of whether the land should be taken into trust, or maybe the Secretary may make a totally different decision.
So right now, the city is enjoined and blocked from annexing the land, and the tribe is blocked from taking it into trust until Interior Department figures this out. And the Interior Department has to, it sounds like it's a county, don't we have county islands all over the place?
I would suspect we do.
Yeah, so from a distance, it sounds somewhat similar. So I guess we'll see how the Interior Department does on that one. Thank you so much for your help explaining all this. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
In the 1970s, the Yavapai community of the Fort McDowell Reservation east of the Phoenix area fought off a proposed federal dam, which led tribal elders to have their histories recorded as they themselves knew it, passed down orally from generation to generation. The effort resulted in Oral History of the Yavapai, a book that chronicles the history of the Yavapai Nation. We spoke with Carolina Butler, editor of the project, about the book and what it took to put the book together. Good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why did you undertake this particular project?
Because it was not mine to do, but it just worked out that way. The oldest man of the tribe, Mike Harrison, he asked me in 1973, I want you to write the history of our tribe. And I said, well, I'm busy right now helping you fight off the Orm Dam, which would have forced them from their land. And but I said, but I'll get you someone. And so I sent out a letter to a publisher in Tucson that I knew, and the letter found itself to the hands of Dr. Sigrid Kara, an ASU anthropology professor. And so she called me up and she said, I'm interested in doing this project. And I took her out to Fort McDowell and introduced her to Mike Harrison, and he had invited his cousin John Williams. So the three of them sat down and they started recording, and they recorded for about 2 to 3 years. It ended up in 200 audio recordings of their interviews, and Mike and John died of old age and infirmities in 1983, and Dr. Kara, unfortunately, got cancer, and she died in 1984. She knew that she was not going to get well, so she wrote her will and left me all her research material.
Wow.
So the thing, yes. So this big project landed in my lap, and so I just, put it aside for many, many years. Did some work on it, categorizing her color slides, etc. And anyway, one day I said, I'm not getting any younger. I better get this thing done.
And you got this thing done. And
I'm very pleased.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
The Oral History of the Yavapai is a very special and different book which all Arizonans should know about, because it's history from the Indians' point of view and told in their own words. And you don't come across that in any book. Nobody's library shelf has a book like this one.
And you talked, again, to the two elders. They were mostly responsible for the earlier interviews.
Yes.
Were other people involved, and we're looking at them right now, were other people involved at later dates, or was this mostly their remembrances?
It was their remembrances, but you will read in the book that Dr. Kara writes that other people from the reservation came around and says, well, that's not exactly how it happened, But anyway, this is to be expected. And so she said, after hearing from other people, there was no question that the ones that had the most knowledge about the old days was Mike and John. And
you mentioned some other people involved, and maybe they had different stories. How do you, when you put an oral history together, how do you make sure that the facts are the facts? How do you corroborate some of this information? Do you have to look in textbooks? Do you talk to other people? How do you make sure that what you were getting was the real thing?
Well, I remember that Dr. Kara, because all of us became close friends, and I remember Dr. Kara because she would research the Army records, the white people's records, and she would say, it's amazing how what the two old fellows are saying just dovetails in with the records that the Army had put.
There you go.
So
and
it's
your
really
book,
amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Your book includes some amazing photography. Talk to us about where you got these photos. And Yavapai, the land here, it's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. But the photographs, where'd you find this? The photographs, first of all, the cover is the Four Peaks. Yes. And Four Peaks is on everybody's Arizona license plate, That's right. And we can almost all see it, too, at some time during the year. So, but anyway, this photo was taken by my son, who's a professional photographer. He gets his photographs in Arizona highways, Elias Butler. But anyway, he has taken so many photos, and when I finished the text of the book, he said, Mom, you can have any photo that you want from my inventory. And so I just went through and I asked him, do you have a photo of this? I said, I don't want any buildings. I don't want any people. I want landscape. And you got some landscape. We just saw an amazing array of photographs there. When the project was finally done, you got the book, you're holding it in your hands, you leaf through the book, you look, you read. Was it what you expected? I have to tell you that it brings me to tears, because the story of the Yavapai is so painful. And no one knows about it. And these people walk among us today. And I say that for 150 years, the Yavapai people have been walking among us, holding this painful past in their hearts and souls, because their history has not been out until now. And so imagine the Black Americans walking among us today, and let's say that no history has ever been recorded of their
painful past. It's the same way for the Yavapai. So,
so what reaction have you had from the Yavapai people, and what reaction have you had from other historians?
Well, the historians, I'll tell you, even today when I was telling everybody, I alerted half of Arizona that I was going to be...
Good news.
Yes, that the book was going to be on this program. The professionals, anthropologists, archaeologists, professors that I know, and that know about the book, they said, oh, it's so great. One professor emailed me today, and he says, I've read the book, and he says, I had to skip some of the painful parts. It was just too much. And I says, well, these people have been walking around with it in their hearts for 150 years. And so,
well,
anyway.
We've run out of time. Congratulations on the project. Obviously a long time in coming, but you got it out there. The book is out there. Continued success. Thank you for joining us.
And the Yavapais have all loved it. And I think every Yavapai is watching today.
Well, good. And that's good news, too. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ted.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
If you have comments about Arizona Horizon, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Your comments may be used on a future edition of Arizona Horizon. Thank you. Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.